gameranx presents another episode of Before You Buy, the show will give you some straight up gameplay and some of our thoughts on the latest games releasing. And today we're talking about the Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind expansion. This one I wasn't really actually planning to dive into, but it's been getting a surprising amount of buzz, and a lot of you guys were curious. A lot of people reached out and asked me about it. It does seem like there's a lot of excitement out there for this, just on the Morrowind name alone. And look, I totally get it. The original Elder Scrolls Morrowind was hugely influential and still one of my favorite games of all time. But this game is very much more Elder Scrolls Online. If you couldn't get into ESO back when it launched, there's been lots and lots of improvements since 3 years ago. I can't get into all of them, but I will outline some as we go along. But at this point, what it is basically a fairly refined MMO with lots of Elder Scrolls exploration elements. But now it has the land of Morrowind. Not technically all of it, but most notably Vardenfell to explore. Once you own this expansion, you can hop in with a character you have by taking a boat or by rolling a new character and starting out here. For the purpose of this video, from the gameplay I recorded, I decided to roll a new character since many of you would be doing the same and getting that experience. And I will immediately give the game points for jumping in. I haven't played Elder Scrolls Online since like 8 months after it originally launched, and I found it easy to get into this. Buying into ESO and Morrowind doesn't come cheap though, but what you do get with the Morrowind expansion is of course the new explorable landmass, some new items and a bunch of weapons and armor types, a new PvP mode, a new 12-player raid, and a new main quest involving the dark elf deity Lord Vivek, which gets pretty interesting. And then of course you get a bunch of side quests. You also get a completely new class called the Warden. It's certainly not an end-all be-all class, you know, it has its perks and some disappointments like any class, but he's essentially a support class with some healing and tankish summon abilities, while being able to deal some respectable damage. The main thing is being a Beastmaster, the wild, he or she can summon a cool bear as an ultimate ability, but it's not always as helpful as you would think. But it does do most things well, and it seems like a well-rounded class pick. You're honestly probably going to see a lot of Wardens running around out there. But the real obvious star here is of course the Regent. Not only is it lots of Morrowind, faithfully and painstakingly recreated from the original Morrowind, pretty damn accurately I gotta say, but it clearly looks way more alive. It's pretty weird, mysterious, and gorgeous, but it's also animated and full of life with weather effects, moving trees, wild animals everywhere, and with everything going on and players running around, it's all almost distracting to a degree, but then again, that's of course because it's an MMO. They even go for the full nostalgic gusto by including amazing music. It's got new, gorgeous orchestral renditions of classic themes and exploration music from Morrowind that's probably still drilled into your skull like it is mine. And I'm gonna be real, revisiting my favorite places and hearing that music just kind of really made me smile. The quests themselves too, from Seyda to the volcanic lands to the ziggurats of the city of Vivek, all take a lot of cues from the classic games, and they mostly manage to be pretty damn interesting. But what's up to you is if you really want to play Elder Scrolls Online. It is very much an MMO. It can be played completely solo, more so than a lot of other MMOs, you know, with tons of exploration and quests, almost like a less exciting main Elder Scrolls game. But once you get to MMO style stuff like raids, you're obviously gonna definitely want to play with friends. I mentioned there is a new raid here, and it's challenging, and I think it is worth the wait, I think. The difference with Elder Scrolls Online since launch is the initiatives to fix the game with a complete overhaul and scaling, removing level requirements, meaning all quests and enemies scale so people can kind of play together and really explore however they want more with less limitations. This big fundamental change was called One Tamriel, and it makes the difference. It's an interesting and respectable choice, but it's not going to be for everyone. MMOs are fickle and specific things, as are the players, and they should be because you're going to be choosing to spend so much time in one of these worlds. And I think the change to allow anyone to go anywhere and do anything in this game, it has been divisive, and I think it's going to continue to be so. It's not going to be for everyone, especially the more hardcore MMO players. I know it's definitely not a bad choice, but not quite for me and what I look for in an MMO. But thankfully, quest design in Morrowind seems stronger than ever, with some good voice acting and interesting lines of dialogue, and even some hard decisions to make here and there at the end of some quests. Exploration, fighting monsters, and getting loot is a decent gameplay loop, especially with friends, but like I said, it's still really good to play alone. A large majority of this game you can play very similar to something like a Skyrim or an Oblivion. But I think combat is a nice compromise between Elder Scrolls and traditional MMO stuff, and it's a decent balance. You might find it boring until you start finding more items and level up and gain more active hotkey abilities, but there's a nice bit of movement and fluidity to it with dodges and stuff, and a decent amount of give and take between hits and blocks. Actual attacking still feels clunky, but it's absolutely playable. For those looking for PvP, Morrowind introduces Battlegrounds arenas for team-based fights. Battlegrounds are short matches of 3 teams of 4 players with a few different ranking options here and there. It has Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, and Domination, and they're decent enough. It's still in an early mode, not sure if people are really going to be picking up into it much, but it's off to a promising start start. Ultimately, I think the Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind chapter has plenty of story and quests to play through and explore. At roughly 25, 30-ish hours of content, that seems a bit small for an MMO expansion, I'm not gonna lie, especially at the asking price they're asking for here. And honestly, Elder Scrolls Online isn't the greatest MMO if that's exactly what you're looking for. It has a lot of shortcomings, especially if you're a person coming into it looking for fully featured PvP worlds. But if you want a light MMO with some good Skyrim Oblivion feel, there's a lot to like here. Just think before you commit. But that's how Before You Buy works. You know, I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, but now I want to hear what you think about Elder Scrolls Morrowind, because it's a very divisive MMO, but it's got some good elements. It's high quality, it's polished, so I want to know what you guys are thinking, whether you played it on console or PC. Let's talk about it. How do you feel about it? Have you jumped back in? Are you a hardcore player? I want to hear all your perspectives here, because my perspective is one thing, but yours is probably going to be completely different. Let's talk about any of this stuff down in the comments. I'll be down there answering your questions as much as I possibly can. But if you enjoyed sticking around and watching Before You Buy, clicking the like button is the best way you can help us out, but subscribing if you're new is also a good idea, because we put out stuff every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.
Praise the bank.